morning or afternoon or evening, wherever you are. This is Friday, January the 31st, 2025. And today we're going to talk about month 2 for Laurel Ridge, the Quilt Show's block of the month. We'll chit-chat for a few minutes as people come on. I've got some things on the wall there to just kind of keep something for you to look at. I took down the ones that were up there. I'm working on those feathered star blocks, and I've got a new sashing idea in mind. So it was a little disjointed. I took those off the wall. But anyway, that one above, there's that star. That's from Oh My Stars, and that's a new class sample for a class I'm hoping to teach for guilds, and maybe this fall at a big show. And then their other one is my charming sampler done out of cave fabrics, and I call that one Cave Charming. Got some other little blocks that were just laying around that I'm going to do something with, those little blocks there on the bottom, and a couple more little samples. And then, of course, we got Laurel Ridge over there. It started on the that side over there beside me. So anyway, when we get wrap this up today, and I'm hoping to go about 30 minutes, we'll see. I have a big announcement coming, and you'll want to stay till the end if possible. I've got a big announcement that you'll want to hear. So anyway, if you have questions while we're going, you certainly can add them, and I will look at those at the end before we wrap up. The other thing that I want to push one more time is the Empty Spools seminars, which is at a Silomar Conference Center close to Monterey, California, is such a wonderful event. And I'll be teaching there in session 5 this year, which is March 30th to April 4th. Registration for all 5 sessions closes February 23rd of this year. So that's only 3 weeks from now. So if you've ever wanted to attend Empty Spools or you don't know about it, go look and see what it is. It is such a I call it a magical place. And my experience there this past spring was just so marvelous that I can't wait to get back. So I'm hopeful that maybe you'll consider joining us. It's just a wonderful thing. It's the 40th year anniversary. So that's going to be a big celebration year too. So a Silomar, and you find that on their website, emptyspoolsseminars.com. Okay. This is month 2. And in month 2, Lynn is going to introduce us to her applique technique. And she has done a great video. It's 23.5 minutes long. So it's like having an extra class with her specifically on her applique techniques. She also did a segment in her show number 3601, which is the applique techniques as well. So the show has a short segment, and then this video certainly supplements that additionally. So you'll want to take a look at that if you're doing the appliques. One of the questions that came up on the forum the other day is that someone said that the measurements seemed to be wrong. It said to draw the lines, in the pattern it says draw the lines 1/2 inch in, and she said, no, that should be 1/4. Well, no, it should be 1/2 because in the pattern, the squares you're told to cut the squares 6 inches before you put the applique on. And then you draw in those lines. Lynn's instructions tell you to draw the lines in 1/2 inch. That's to show you where the exact design area is. So you don't accidentally put your appliques where they will go into the seam allowance. And that's very important. And having done that in years gone by, there's nothing worse than that. Get your applique done and go, no, darn, it's too small. So if you're cutting the squares 6 inches, your lines to show you where the edges are come in 1/2 inch from either side. In the video on where she shows it, she started with a 6-inch strip of fabric, which she then treated with Teriel Magic. And she talks all about that product and why she likes it. It makes a very stiff, her squares, when she picks them up, they don't flop over. It's not just loose fabric. It's real strong fabric. It's just nice and I don't know what dense or it's stiff. It's stiff with the Teriel Magic. So she then trims that. She says after she's treated it with Teriel Magic, the block will not shrink anymore. So she then trims it to 5.5 before she starts the applique. Now, if it's 5.5 before the applique, yes, you draw the lines in 1/4 on either side, which will allow you again to see that 5-inch square that is the design area. She does use a marker, friction mark pens that erase supposedly with hot with heat with an iron. I don't use those on my quilts. There's two camps. You use them, you don't use them. After doing a lot of research and reading a couple of important studies about them, I chose not to use them. So, but anyway, that's whatever you use to mark. If you need that to show you, that's the difference. Where in one place it says draw in your lines a half an inch in, and the other place is a quarter of an inch in. So, anyway, so there's so much help with this block of the month between her videos, my blogs, these lives, great written pattern instructions that I hope that you'll take advantage of. All this quilt can teach you, because it's got a lot to teach. So the other question that I got, somebody's asked, when do these patterns come up? Because people stumbled across them yesterday. So I'll give you the inside tip how this works. Okay, sometime prior to the first of the month, I'm notified by Mary Kay, who handles all of our website stuff, that she's put the next month's pattern up and she wants me to check it. Sometimes based on our traveling schedules, hers and mine, it may be a week or more before the first of the month. I check it, I write her back and say, yep, it's fine, or we have to tweak this a little bit, whatever that is, she gets it fixed. And if it's a week in advance, she'll shut it down and set it to go up. Usually, here's the tip, usually the day before the first of the month. So that would be today. And when I knew that that was the plan, or thought it was likely, I set my blog to go out today instead of this next Sunday, because everything I'm going to show you here shortly, I wanted you to see before you started cutting other fabric, in case you decided that you wanted to do the piece block instead of an applique block. So typically that's what happens. Because we did this here just like 2 days ago, once I approved it for Mary Kay, she said, I'm just going to leave it there. So sometimes you may stumble across the next month a day or two sooner than the first of the month, but only you know that. That's like inside tip. You're the only people who know that. Okay, let me go now to my document camera. I'm going to show you some things here. And which one I want to start with? Okay. Oh, yes. All right. So switch here. Document camera. All righty. Let me move these. I set my design area, I thought, really nice and large. And so we're just going to play with these for a few minutes. We'll talk about this. Okay, so the first thing that I want to say, I wrote it in the blog, and I'm saying it again here publicly, and I can't say it enough. Big warning. If you are one of the many, many, many people using either of the kits, these changes that I've made have not been tested through the kit yardage amount. I don't know if it's going to cut you short on something else later. If that makes you nervous, stick with the plan exactly the way the pattern is written, because there is adequate fabric. There is, Lynn has assured me there is enough. And because she starches and uses Terriel Magic on some of her projects, she has worked in enough little extra fabric that for the kits. But I don't know what my changes might do to your supply of fabric. I have no problem with that. I'd add something extra. When I get toward the end, if I'm getting low on one thing, I'm just going to substitute something else. This yellow fabric that I have here is not part of the kit. It's a different fabric altogether that I just wanted to add some additional yellows, so that's one of those that I used. So big warning, I can't guarantee you if you make these changes or do anything else on your own that you might not run a little short toward the end. I don't think that's going to happen, but pure guess, pure speculation on my part. So that's important. Okay. So in playing with this, when I knew I didn't want to do applique blocks, I wanted to do some other, and I know that several people have told me, thank you, I don't want to do applique either. We've done a lot of applique here in the last few years. So I like piece blocks, and I thought, well, I'll come up with some other ones. So I sat down with Barbara Brackman's Encyclopedia of Pieced Quilt Patterns, and it's 500 pages long or whatever. And I turned every page and I looked at various blocks to see which ones I might like. So here's the first one. Okay. No, this is the last one. When we get to the first one, that's the one I'm going to do. So I'm going to start with the first one. All right. Let me just move him a little bit out of the way. Nothing like being prepared. Okay. So the first one, this is what the block looks like. I call this an X block. Okay. And now remember, they are 5 inches finished, which means they have to be 5.5 right now. And they are. So this is simply a 4 patch, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if this is 5 inches finished, that must be 2.5 inches finished. And it is. And I made this with paper piecing just because it was easier for me. I am not going to provide you the paper piecing patterns. This is so simple, you can draw this yourself. And the blog has all of these things that I'm telling you. It has all these numbers and everything right there for you to look at. So here's what I did. Here's my paper piecing pattern for these cute little things. See, there's 4 of these to make a block. We are making a total of 12 5-inch blocks this month, whether they're applique or pieced or whatever you decide to put in that 5-inch space. So they're just really simple. And I printed this sheet of paper, and you can draw it out. So I tell you in the blog how to draw it. If this is 2.5 inches finished, I simply drew a 3-inch square. If you're doing this yourself on paper, draw a 3-inch square, show yourself the 1/4-inch seam allowance inside, and now you have the area to work with. And I made my strip, let's see if I even wrote it down. I didn't, but I could measure it. Not that that's that important, but I think this is slightly less than an inch. Yeah, it's 7/8 of an inch wide in there. And I just decided that how this was symmetrically is how that worked out. I printed this on freezer paper. I learned with Wendy Williams' Color My World, which always used freezer paper as our paper piecing foundation. You don't sew through the paper, you fold it and sew between it. I have a blog tutorial on how to do that if this is new to you. The great thing about this is that one sheet of freezer paper that looks like this that I've printed that has the 4 patterns on it is all I would need to make all 12 of these, because I'm not sewing through the paper. I use these over and over and over again. The waxy part wears off pretty quickly, and then I simply use a little dab of fabric glue or Elmer's disappearing glue stick, one of those, just a little bit to keep it secure. The biggest problem with this method, because you're not sewing through the paper, is if you are not careful and you remove your sewn item out from under your machine and you don't hold on to both the fabric and the paper, they come apart before you're finished sewing them, and getting it sewn back together is a real challenge. So, but the great thing about this is if you were making 400 of these, you don't need 400 of these little pieces of paper. So anyway, tutorial on my blog, how to do freezer paper, and there's a link to it in today's blog, month 2's Laurel Ridge blog. Anyway, so here's what these look like. All right. I thought they were really cute, and there's lots of different ways you can do them. So I've only made 3 here. And so I could set them like this. Now I got the blue and the yellow in the middle. Go, well, let me see. Do I want all 4 colors in the middle? I could do that. If I did that, then this one, nope, it would have to go like that. So I got those. That's an option. Okay, so lots of options. And I would just sew these 3 together if this is my final decision. And I would have, instead of 3 applique blocks, I have these 3 piece blocks. So that's X blocks. Okay, cute, 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 easy, easy, easy. And it's a simple thing for you to draw your own. If you don't have Electric Quilt or another kind of a design software, just easy, draw your own. That's what's, and the blog tells you all about it. I put that one over there and grab the next one. Okay, this one of the things I liked about Lynn's applique design is that it looks like it's a circle. It's got those 4 petals, and it goes in a circular motion, and it has a heart and a circle in the middle with a heart in it, and I really like that. So I was looking for pieced blocks that resemble something that when you put them together gives you this look that is let's try that like that. Okay, so there's an option. So this is a circular block. All right, looks like this. Okay, it's not a 4-patch. Okay, it has 2 squares on the outside that are 2 inches finished, and a sashing in the middle that's 1 inch finished. 2 plus 2 is 4, and 1 is 5. And with your seam allowance, it's a 5.5-inch block. Okay, so I like that. I made a couple of these, and you could look at how you could put them together. Maybe you want it to go like that. Maybe you want it to go like this. That's an option. In this case, I have the yellow that is not part of the kit, and this deep green that I'm using elsewhere, and I'll show you that on the board again in a few minutes. So that's another option. But I like this fact that this looks circular, but there's no curved piecing in it at all. Okay, so these guys, again, are very simple, and they are 2-inch units, and they are not symmetrical. The way I drew it, I have a smaller, this triangle is smaller than that one. This is not symmetrical, although you could make it symmetrical if you wanted to, anything you wanted to do. I wanted more color, so my stripe in here is wider, and it's slightly bigger than 1. It's not quite 1 1/8, somewhere in there, but it worked out just fine. And so that's how I made these, and I printed out a whole sheet of this. No, I'm not going to send you this pattern. You can draw this yourself on a piece of paper, these little 4-inch, 2-inch guys. If they're 2-inch finished, remember, start with a 2.5-inch square, so you have the design area. Draw in those 1/4 inch seam allowances so you know where you are, and just draw your lines. So if you like this one, I didn't invent this block. This came out of the Brackman book, and it's a great little block. And I was really leaning toward this one until I did the third one. So let's look at the third one. I called this one rolling block. I think that might be what that was called. All right, let me go to this one now. All righty, where are you? Yes, you were right here. Okay, so then I said, well, okay, these are all well and good. They just take a little more time. What about something simpler yet? And this one is another X block, but I call this one the easy X block. Okay, so they look like this. Again, 5 inches finished, 5.5 right now. Okay, these are 1-inch sashings finished, and my squares of color are cut very easily from 5-inch squares, and I'll show you that here in just a second. So this is what I drew for my pattern. I drew a 5-inch square. I drew diagonal lines on either side, and then I just made it 1 inch wide, so 1/2 inch from either side of the diagonal. That's what my finished block was going to look like. Then I was able to calculate my 1/4 squares and what size that I have to cut. You want to make sure you've cut 1/4 square triangles, which is what this is. Okay, a 1/4 square triangle is when we start with a square, move it where you can see it, okay, and then we cut it on both diagonals, corner to corner, and that gives you the straight of grain on the long side. These are bias edges. This is straight of grain. If you simply cut a square in half, a plain old square in half, like here's another one. This is my set of them. If I cut this in half, that's got bias on the long edge and straight of grain on the 2 short sides. That's not what we want for this block. We want straight of grain on the long side. Math people know that's called the hypotenuse. Okay, so I've stacked up here these 4 colors that I'm using: pink, the blue, the green check, and the yellow. When I cut these apart, this is a block because I need 1 of each color for a block. This is a block. This is a block. So it only takes a total of 3 5-inch squares of the 4 colors you want to use to give you all of the triangles you need. 3 pinks, 3 blues, 3 yellows, 3 greens, to give you all of the triangles you need to make all 12 of these blocks. Okay, so that makes it fast and easy. And I like how this looks. Let me show you this. I'm going to show you this construction here in just a second. So move it where you can see it. Get these out of the way. All right. So I have this as an option. I could put these together like this. Have a yellow square and a green square with the pinks and the blues opposing. I could say, well, how about if I want the blues? That means I'm going to get a pink over here. Now I've got blue and pink and yellow and green top and bottom. Okay, could do that. What if I want to alternate them? What if I want blue, green, yellow, pink? Okay, that would work too. So anything, it's up to you how you want to do it. It's just easy. And this is so easy that I've decided that this is what I'm going to do. And here's the little couple of tips about the construction of this. Let me grab my ruler to show you. Okay, I prepped this out so we could see it. Okay, so in order to do this, I've laid out my 4 colored triangles. Then I've cut a strip of my this background fabric, sashing fabric, 1.5 inches because it's 1 inch finished. This is not paper pieced. 100% not paper piece, just regular piecing. Okay. It takes about a 9-inch strip of the long one for the middle, because remember they look like this. We got a 1 long middle and 2 little skinny ones. You know, you could do something else. You could put a cornerstone in the middle there. You could make this long sashing piece a white, a color, a white. Yep, you could do that. A little more work, but you could do that should you choose to. Another idea right on the fly. All right. So a 9-inch of the long one and about 4.5 of each of the 2 short ones. So 2 9-inch strips, one you're going to cut in half and one you're not. I lay these out and I want to sew these together. So I've put this one and sewn it, and I pressed toward the darker fabric, in this case, away from the center. As I did this half, here's a half. And once I have the 2 halves, so this is going to get sewn on here. And this half has the center added to it. And then I will move this where you can see it. Yeah. And then I'll be able to join the 2 halves together. Couple of tips. And I didn't write all this in the blog, so you watching this video will get to see these things that I didn't go into 100% of that total detail. I call this the trust but verify method. I have a tendency to sew with a skinny seam allowance as opposed to a fat seam allowance. Once I have this piece, this seam sewn, and I press toward, in this case, the blue, I'm going to check myself to see if this is still the right size, because the seam allowance doesn't matter. No one is going to see your seam allowance when the quilt is finished, but they're going to see if blocks don't align. So I know that this is 1 inch finished. I've used up a 1/4 inch seam allowance here. I still need 1 more 1/4 inch seam allowance. From this line, this fold, to that edge should be 1 1/4, and I'm going to check it, okay? And I lay my 1 1/4 line right there, and I think maybe, yep, you can see, I'm a good 1/8 off. I've got an 1/8 too much. And if I leave that there, when I sew this one on, this is wider, and it's wider than this one, because this one was perfect. So I have, one of the tips that I say is, you want, and I learned this from Sally Collins. And when I first took a Sally Collins class and I watched her on the quilt show, which I strongly recommend you watch her shows if you have never seen the piecing techniques of Sally Collins, she would tell you to every time, check every seam after you sew it. And I thought, now I was much younger then, and I thought, who has time for that? Who has time to do all that? Well, the person who doesn't have time to take it apart when the whole block is done because it didn't fit. So I call this trust but verify, and you want to find the mistake the first place you make it, not later. So I simply checked this. When I checked this one, it was good. This one needs to be trimmed. So I'm going to put my 1 1/4 line on here, and on my cutting mat, I'm going to trim this little bit away. That means that this seam allowance was a little bit skinny. Nobody's going to see that. It's plenty. There's plenty of fabric there. It's just a little skinny. So that's a little tip. Then once this half is sewn to this half, and again is pressed toward the green, now, and this one, I've put this one on. Now I want to join this to here. What you would like to see happen is that in the finished block, that these seams, this white seam up here, really does align with this one right here, and this one and this one. There's an easy way to make that happen. What I did with this piece, as I got it finished, I made the 2 halves, pink, white, yellow. Then I added the sashing strip. And then I just took a ruler and a long line, and I came down there, and this is my marker of choice, any old mechanical pencil, on the wrong side of the fabric. I put a little tick mark of mark there and a little tick mark there with this mechanical pencil. And I think you can, I got threads all over this little design board, but you can see those. And then when I get ready to pin this to this, I know right where they should align. It's just an easy little trick instead of hoping that it works out, guessing that it's going to work out. I don't want to have to take it apart because it was off. So that's how I come up with that. So, okay. Yeah, let's go back now to the webcam because I've shown you all of these. Again, everything that I've shown you here, the words and the shapes and all that stuff is in today's blog, month 2 for Laurel Ridge. Okay, feel free to make this quilt your own. Lynn is fine with this. A lot of designers don't mind if you get creative. She's interested to see what you do, and she is paying attention on the forum, so that's very nice. It's okay. Your quilt will be inspired by her Laurel Ridge design. Okay, just because you change something doesn't make it your quilt. It's still Laurel Ridge, designed by Lynn Wilder, with some adjustments to your own. So last month in the live, I showed you, I think it was January 3rd, I took you on a little tour of the website. I'm not going to do that now, but you can go back and watch that one. All of these lives are still available always, just go onto the main page of Laurel Ridge, and the last item after I think it's the story, or it's above the story. So it'd be month 2, and then I think mine is next, Facebook Live. And it's just right there, and you click on it, and each one is there. It takes a few hours sometimes for today's to pop in there, but it will be there. So that's where you can go back and look at last month's if you didn't see last month, or you need a refresher on how to find things. I took you on a tour of our website, thequiltshow.com, to show you how to get around. I'm just going to mention again that Lynn's show, number 3601, is free all year for anybody. You don't have to be a star member to watch the show. You have to be a star member to access the patterns, but you don't have to be a star member to watch the show. So if you have friends who haven't decided that they want to be part of this, but they like what you're doing, encourage them to watch the show. It'll give them a lot of information, and it'll show them how the shows operate. Anyway, so time for the big announcement. All right. Lynn Wilder hosts a retreat now 4 times a year in Arnold, California. Spectacular location at Snowflake Lodge at Blue Springs Lake in Arnold, California. I don't live there. I'm over here in the deep south at Alabama. So I just pulled up Google and took a look, and where is this and what's it located near? And the nearest airport, Sacramento. So she has this wonderful retreat, and this year there's the last one of the year is November 2nd to the 6th. And she is going to have a special guest instructor. Me. I'm going to be there. So if you want to spend 5 days with Lynn and me, getting all the help you could possibly get on any project that you could possibly want to work on, this is your chance. This is going to fill very quickly if it hasn't already. I hope. She just announced it publicly, and she's never done that before on her blog. Her blog is sowandwildoaks.com, or Google her name. It'll pop up. Lynn Wilder. Okay. Somebody called her Laurel Wilder the other day. No, that's Little House on the Prairie. Lynn Wilder. So, this is great timing because at the end of March or November, because we're going to be wrapping up Laurel Ridge. If you're not completely caught up, you got 5 days with her help, at my help, to get it done. And if you are caught up, and it's time to assemble it and put it all together, and we'll be there, and we can start talking about how you might want to quilt it and all these kind of different things. So there's room for 36 people, but I'm sure spaces are filling fast. She's never published advertised her retreats before. It has always been word of mouth. People who go don't want to miss a chance to go back year after year after year. So the nearest airport is Sacramento. That's where I'll be flying into on November 1st. And so I would love to see you there. Lynn would love to see you there. You don't have to be a Quilt Show member to attend. This is not a Quilt Show sponsored retreat in any way. This is Lynn Wilder's retreat. But it's going to be fun, because both she and I are full of great ideas. And my attitude is, if you're not laughing, you're not learning anything. So let's have fun, and let's have a great time together, and work on wrapping up your Laurel Ridge if that's at the stage that you're at. So but don't delay. On her blog today, she just put it out here. It's like 2 days ago, I think. She asked me yesterday about this. And those spaces are filling now. On the blog, she says, shoot me an email. She has a link there for you to do that, and she will send you the registration information. So the cost is $400 for the 5 days, which includes your meals, brunch and dinner. It does not include lodging, and she gives you lots of information, and there's plenty of good lodging places right available for you to choose to do that. So big announcement, but I expect when I see you again here in just a couple of weeks, I'll be able to say, sorry, get on the wait list, because the space is sold out. So, all right, I'm going to take a look and see if we have any questions. All righty, let me see if I can see where they are. This is different. There we go. Chat. Okay. Chat. Read platforms here. All right. I thought I saw some a minute ago. Where are you? See if I can go. Oh, there has to be. All right. Stream chat. Okay. Yeah, there they are. All right. Block of the month, Laurel Ridge. Block of the month. Block of the month, John Anderson. Nope, that's not. I'm going to go to my chat here. Let me see if it's there. No. Okay. All right. Well, that is just one of those things that happens. I do go back later today. Now we're raining today, so I won't be going out for my walk for another hour. But I will go back over and I look at the Facebook, both Alex Anderson's public page and the Quilt Show's public page, and I go to YouTube and I do answer the questions, everything that has shown up there, since I'm not seeing them here today. But I will answer them as I see them. And the forum is the other great place to ask our questions. I've put it up on the forum. We have month 2, ask questions here, and month 2, show your progress here. And so we do encourage you to put those things up there. As I said, Lynn is watching them as well as me. So we jump in there just as quickly as we can to answer your questions. And sometimes what I say is, I'm sorry, I don't understand that question, and I'll ask a kind of a follow-up sort of a thing. Next month, for month 3, we are making 48 blocks. 48 blocks. But they're big blocks. They're 5-inch blocks, but they're half square triangles. And Lynn has great mathematical instructions to help you make them fast. And it was a tip that I learned from her when I watched one of the video on her classroom, and I'll show you all that next time. Again, they're on there for you. The great thing about what she's put on the patterns is a direct link to her Quilt Show classrooms if there is a topic that she did on there. She had 7 videos that were done several years ago now, and it pertains to that particular month. So there was nothing for applique, so there's no link on the applique blocks, but her video this month, you can't miss that 23.5-minute video that's there. So anyway, so we will be back for month 3. The live will be Friday, February 28th. And when it falls like this, I do that because if I waited till the next week, it would be the 7th of March, and all the great tips that I would have had to tell you, you missed them because you'd already done other things. You'd started on them and missed them. So I have to get ahead of you. So that's why next month is February 28th at noon Central Time. So, okay, did pretty good time-wise. 32 minutes in. I'm going to go look at your questions and see if I can answer any of those for you, and I'll